Hi, my name's Robert Adams from Papercrafts Limited, and what I'd like to do is show you this quick tutorial on how to make this popping box card. And this is working with trellis arch and edge cutter die as well, and that gives you a lovely box like this. The nice thing with this is you can decorate it with the dies however you want, keep it plain, it's really up to you. Now I've got to say with this box I've really gone to town with it, and if I lift up the flaps here you can see I've cut into here. Now that's not necessarily a bad thing, but you don't have to take it quite as far as I've done here. This is to show you an extreme example of it. I think it looks quite nice just having the top parts and this part done, and I'll show you an example of that. And as you can see in this example I've got here, I've just done it in white, but you can obviously make the box in any colour that you want. And the box itself will have the pattern inside it as well. And I'll explain all about that in a moment. But you can see now how we've got a lovely looking box with our trellis arch ready to take on any embellishment that we want. And if you want to, you can then put something on faces of the box as well, so you don't necessarily have to cut into it. Incidentally, if you do want to do as I said on this other one here, you're going to need at least an A4 size cutter in order to get that through your machine. This just won't work on your big shot, your smaller big shot, or so that's something to point out. But if you only have a big shot, you can do everything that we've got here, and you could make the panels separately and then just stick them on as well if you wanted to, which I actually think is a better way of doing it, because if you do mess up on something, you haven't ruined all the work that you've done already. So with that aside, let's start off and show you how to make one of these lovely popping box cards. So to begin with, we're going to use the template here, and we're obviously going to use our die cutters. Now we don't need those right now, so I'm just going to pop those out of the way and concentrate on the template here. Okay, so it's straightforward. We're going to have to draw around this, and we're just going to use the outside lines, and I'll show you in just two ticks. So there's a couple of things to note. We've got Papercrafts there on the top, .co.uk, but the other writing on here, you'll just be able, and I don't know if you can even make this out on the camera because it's just lightly etched in, but it'll say tag with an arrow, and it'll say popping box mechanism for this part here. All of that will become clear in a moment. So I think really let's just start drawing with it. Now there's a couple of ways you can do this. I tend to just cheat and go right up into the corner of a piece of card, because then I think, well, that's a couple of cuts less to make. But that really is up to you. If you want to start off in the middle and just feel safe with it all, please do it that way. And in fact, because there's slight indents, I'm going to do it like that anyway and show you. Right, we could, I'm working on white card, by the way. It's 250 GSM, which is what I recommend for this. You shouldn't really go any thinner for that if you're going to use the popping box mechanism, and I'll talk about that. But you don't necessarily need to do it, but I find a good 250 GSM card gives you a little bit of weight. If you've only got 160, well, yeah, you could get away with that. Okay, I hold the template down. There's hundreds of different ways of doing this. It's up to you. You may want to pop a little bit of tape just somewhere to hold it in position. Feel free to do so. My preferred method is just draw around it, hold it down, and if it does move, I just try and line it all up again. So what I'm going to do is with a pencil, and I've just used an HB pencil here, just start off and literally get my outline of the pencil going round it. And I don't know if you can make it out here. I'm just pulling the template away to show you. You've got that little dink, so as you draw upon this section here, it just clips up a bit. You should sort of hit a little ridge, and then you move up. That's just about a mil or so there. Now I've just moved my template to show you that, so I'm just going to pop it back into position like that. It's near enough, it's good enough. Just that was showing you the dink there, and just carry on drawing all the way round. Like so. If it moves a wee bit, I'll just line it up. But as I said, feel free to use tape if you want to. Down to there. No real methods to tell you about this. I just try and keep the pencil at a slight angle, so about 30 degrees, so it's pushing in against the template rather than out like that. It's just, if I show you, it's like that rather than like that, just my preferred method. And I've gone and done the outline, so we need to do some construction lines here, and these are fold lines. So let's start with these up here. And again, I'm just going to pop my pencil in. And on this one, these have to be thick enough to get your pencil in, but you could go almost half a mil either way. On this particular line here, I tend to favour pushing it to outwards. And the same, I'm going to come down here, but I'm pushing it down towards that way. I'm favouring that line of the template. It just makes that section just a wee bit bigger. Whoops, I've just dropped into something I don't need there, which is the mechanism, popping mechanism. And we ignore that. We're just using this line here. And then I've drawn my line through there. And I'll just come down now and pop that one there. And the last one is this tab here. These represent dotted lines, which mean they're fold lines. Everything else we now ignore, and we can take our template away, and that's our drawing there. So I hope this is picking up. I've pressed quite hard on the camera so that you can see it on camera. If you want to, you could just perhaps neaten up some of the lines. Personally, I don't think that's really necessary. I think it's just a case of if you can see what you've got there, just go ahead and cut it out, and that's the next stage. You can use scissors, you can use a craft knife, really whatever you want. I favour a craft knife, and what I do is just do the straight lines first. If you remember, this is the little dog leg there, just pop a little click into there, and again go like so, and I'm just going to work my way round and cut this out. There's no real surprises. I'm using the craft knife. Notice I'm going by hand there. That's just the tab. You could, the size of the tab isn't really that critical, so you could actually just cut and keep it a little bit bigger, like so, if you wanted to. And then round to here. Just clearing the waste from underneath, and while I'm doing straight lines, I need to come down to this fold line here with these ones. That's a fold stroke score line, so I'll just cut through like so. And that gives me, it's about 2 mil of line. If I can just pull that out, you'll see it very clearly contrasted there. Now these lines just help the box, when it folds in the corners of the box, to get it folding nicely, it's these little bits of detail here, that little dog leg there, it just allows things to work smoothly for us. Now we've got the curve here. The curve isn't absolutely critical, you'll be pleased to know. Notice I'm just ripping those out of the way, and I must just cut this one, and that's in line with that part there. So it just comes down to our fold. Now if you want to, there is no harm in just switching to a pair of scissors. And I'm switching to a pair of glasses as well. I knew there was something missing when I was trying to cut. Luckily, not one of my fingers. Okay, so with the curves here, now don't forget, you don't have to make a really accurate curve on this, because we're going to use the template to cut this one out. However, that said, if you wanted to make just a plain box card with no frills on it, take a little bit of time. So you have a choice of scissors, or just get my craft knife. Personally, I find I'm a little bit neater and a little bit quicker with a craft knife. That's just me. I just wanted to show you both, whichever you're happiest with. And again, I'm just rushing through this because I know you can see the difference. That's just me. Again, you work however you want to. So there we go. We've got the basic setup there. Now what we need to do is put the score lines into our dotted lines here. Now I think you could use your scoring tool for that. I tend to favour, I can't find my scoring tool, had it all set up, but I do personally prefer to favour the back of my craft knife here. That's just me. And so just lining up there, I'll just pop a line through there, This I find gives me a very neat and crisp fold line. Through there, down through the middle here. And again, you see I didn't really need to neaten up my lines. And one here for the fold there. Okay, now why that's in position, what I'm going to do here is just fold it against the ruler, like so. Give it a squeeze. Same with these ones here, just fold it against the edge of my ruler, and I find that just helps to give you a nice neat fold. Must make sure I've done that properly. Went a little bit off there. And again, with these, it's important that you fold them before you do any cutting. Like so. And then once that's all in position, you can neatly just add a little bit of crease. Bone folder can help there just to tighten up some of the creases. Just make sure everything's nice and crisp. I've got that center one there to do. And there we go, that's all in position. So what we need to do now is make 2 of these, and then we can pop them together. So I'm going to go on ahead now and make my second one, and then I'll show you how we glue it all together. And we're really there with the box. It's very simple, it's just a little bit of construction time, and we're going to come back then and use our die here, and I'll show you all of that in a moment. So once you've got your score lines in, all you need to do now is just fold it. You can use the edge of the ruler if you want to. Because I've done mine with my blade, it tends to be quite neat and give me a fairly good, crisp, straightforward line. And again, you can use a bone folder like this just to neaten up all your creases like so. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and make another one of these. We have 2 of those, and I'll show you how we pop it together. And we do all of this before we start cutting with the die, but that's actually the next thing to do. So I'll just come back, I'll cut this one and we'll come back in a moment. Right, got my 2 parts. That's what you need to make the box. But before we go ahead any further, we've got to cut and make our lovely trellis edges like we've got in our box here. And for that we're going to use the die. And so what we're going to do is work on these one at a time, and I'll show you how to feed them through 2 different sorts of machines and explain as we go along. Now once you've got this drawn out, you've got all your fold lines, everything coming inwards on the pencil. What we need to do before you cut it is turn it over and then work on this side, and that way when it folds over, all the construction lines will be hidden and the more decorative part of the die will show through. So the first thing I want to do is bring up my dies, and the very first cut we're going to make is this one here with this die. So what we need to do is just offer this up to, I'll just take that one out of the way, to the edge here, and make sure there's enough card to allow it to cut, and you'll notice it just drops off over the edge. I'm going to pop a little piece of tape that's not too sticky just to hold it in position, and that die will just drop off either part of the edge there. Now I'm going to use my Big Shot first, and this will go through the machine this way, no trouble at all, but obviously it's too wide. Okay, the next thing to do now is pop this through the machine, and I'm going to use my Big Shot, but obviously it's too wide. So what I'm going to do now is just fold that over there like that and bring this panel down like so. So I've got a nice long shape, and that will now fit through my machine because I only have to cut down to here, so I'm not going to squash any of this bit of the card. There we go. I'll just get that ready. Now I'm cutting down onto my base plate and keeping my top plate clear. So now I'm cutting in reverse. I actually cut on my base plate. This is just a new method of doing things that I use. Now we can't feed that through this way, which is how we'd like to go, but to be honest, it's such a small die, it works perfectly like that. So I'm going to just capture this within here, like so. And it doesn't do any harm to move it a little bit towards an edge where you get a stronger cut on either machine. And just run that through, like so. In fact, look, that's going to come out right away for us. I've got the other bit stuck under the machine, so I might as well liberate that. And I'll show you the cut here. So that's really nice. That's cut through there for us, come down the straight lines. So all I have to do now is repeat that for the other side here. You see I've got my waste and a little bit of tape on it. And I'm just going to use the same method as I've just done. So let's just show you on this one. I'm going to line that up there like so. A little bit will come off over the edge, but make sure there's enough card to hold the die. Not so much to hold the die, but to allow this enough to cut through and allow that edge to come off. Now that should be equidistant. It might help to use your cutting mat just to have everything straight and just measure roughly if you're unsure. You don't want that, can I just exaggerate what we're doing there? You don't want it to be at a funny angle like that. You'd notice it, just near or near enough. Now, I've got to say this is, again, very, very forgiving. So don't worry too much, just pop it on there, make sure the die's coming off over the edge, there's something to hold it on, a little bit of tape, and there we go. We're trying to keep them roughly equal as well. I probably, in fairness, could have come up a wee bit on there, but that's okay. And if you're unsure, look, there's plenty of room on that one for my die there as well. Okay, so I'm going to just cut that and run it through the machine, and I'm going to do exactly the same. While I've got that die out, I'm going to do exactly the same for these panels as well, just the same process, and go right the way through and cut that, and then we'll come back and look at using this part of the die, the arches, to cut into there as well. Okay, so I'll see you in a moment when I've cut all of these. But before I do that, I'd just like to show you how I would use a bigger format machine, and I would cut with that. So I'm going to switch to my Grand Caliber here. Now with my Grand Caliber, I could do exactly well, I'm going to just do exactly the same. Fold it over, fold it in on itself, and just fold it down like so. My tape wasn't as sticky as it should be, so I'm just going to pop it on there and run that through the machine. But just again, sticking, let's just fight it with this one a little bit. Let's pull that plate back. Everything else is folded out the way now, and again I'm just going to pop that through the machine. I don't have to fold it in quite as much as I did with the other one, because I'm not going to come back that low anyway, and just run that through the machine like so. It cuts very well, this little die, for the trellis edge there, and that's just cut that off for me. I'll just show you, there we go, that's just dropped off, and that's cut through there. Could just neaten up that corner, obviously was when I just popped it back on, could have been a little bit neater. There we go, well that's fine. If I pop that down, we can see they're roughly the same distance there, so they're fine. Okay, now as I said, I would have gone on and done the other panels, but now we've got this one here, let's talk about this one. So we've got some guidelines to the side and to the base as well, and what we want to do is just line this up. I'm going to now just cut this one, so I pop the die down there and just line it with the edges upright, try and get equidistant that I can there, and a little gap from the bottom line there. So you don't have to sort of worry too much. It will all look nice when it's cut, and then just hold it into position with a bit of tape here. Again, low tack tape, because as this goes through the machine, it's going to put a lot of pressure on it. Now, again, there's two methods. I'm going to use my Big Shot first and then the Grand Caliber to show you a larger cutting format. So we'll need to get it, it can only go through the machine this way on my Big Shot. So again, I'm just going to fold that one over there and that one back out the way, so there's room for that to feed through. Bring up my machine Again, just rest that on the plate there and pop this one on. And again, we're asking a lot of this die. It really, as I said, wants to go through that way. Well, that's obviously not going to happen. So pop the plate on, but I still think it helps to put it nearer to an edge as well. Just helps with the cutting of this. So I'll just move that over, not too close, but rather than straight through the middle, and then run that through. Like so. You can hear that clonking through. That's a big die, and then just pull that back. We should be absolutely fine. Now, if I just turn that over, I can have a look, because you may have to shim, but I can see all the cut lines through on there, and that's absolutely fine. So what I'll do now is just pop that down on the desk here. Just move my machine right there. Take the plate off. And carefully remove that. There's no harm in just running it back and forth a few times. Now this will have put the tape on quite hard, so I'm just going to gently pull that away. This is why we have it low tack. It's probably a little bit tacky. Just take my time, lift it off. To be honest, this is going to fold over, so we hopefully wouldn't see any problems there. And right, now all I'm going to do now is just go ahead and flick these out like so. And then come back and just do exactly the same for this side as well. And I'll just pop that on, we'll run it through the machine. But on the next cut, I'm going to use my Grand Caliber instead. And again, I'll show you how we pop that through. Okie dokie. Okay, I've gone ahead and just taken the bits out there. I could probably run back and forth through the machine another time. It did cut okay, and it wasn't really a problem. It's just the deeper the cut, the quicker they drop out. They were all just being held in position just very slightly. It just took me a minute just to really pop those out. But perhaps running it through twice may have just made a deeper cut. Okie dokie, so I'm going to do the same again. I just line this up like so, a bit of space either side, equidistance, a little bit at the base. Try and follow the curve there. Remember, this is actually a slightly awkward shape because the curve is made by the actual trellis part there. Hold that in position. Now, this time I want to run it through this way. I'm going to use my Grand Caliber. Right, so for this one, just want to feed it through this away, and it's a case of just folding everything out the way, and I go, because I want to go through there, I can't do the same method as that. We've just got to fold. With this one, we just bring that line up to the halfway point here. It misses all of the die there, and to save just crushing that, I'm going to turn it round and get it as close to the edge as I can. I'll just show you there. So I'm just folding that in half like so, and I'm just going to cut through that away with this machine. So plate on the top, and again close to the edge with this one, but because we're cutting in a way that's more sympathetic to the die, we should be absolutely fine. Well, I know we are, because I've cut loads of these. You'll feel that drop off. We don't want to squash the other one too much, so once you feel it just drop off the die, come off. You can see all my bits are dropping away there, so that's nice and happy. I'll just move this out the way, and again just remove the die, carefully pull it off. We don't want it to rip any paper, and we can see a few will just remain in there like so, and there we go. Same result but two different methods. So what I need to do now is go on ahead and just cut this one, and I'll do exactly the same technique. And then we'll come back and have a look at the card then. Now, incidentally, before I do that, you'll notice on my example card, I'll just bring that into shot, that I've actually cut a shape in here. So I'm just going to show you that now on one of these panels and how we do it, because that will give you an idea of, for yourself. Now, you can only do this with a larger format machine because we have to fold everything out the way, and it just isn't practical on your big shot. But if you wanted to do that, you could, I think, just make the panel separately on a piece of card and feed it through, and then just stick it down onto the box if you wanted to. That's what I would recommend. And in fact, as I said at the start, to be honest, that's what I do for all of them, because if anything does mess up, all this work has kind of been for nothing. Now, personally, I think that's gilding the lily. I quite like the box looking like so. I think that looks really nice. I don't think it is possibly necessary to cut into there, because I would just decorate perhaps that one as well. But that said, let's just run through, and all I do, if I just tap this to get some bits out, there we go, is just pop this down onto the base here, and I do exactly the same thing. I just line it up quite close, having the tip of the die just touching the line there, because it's a little bit shorter, and then just pop that down with my tape and hold it in position. And what I will have to do is fold this on top. Let me just show you. In order to get this one through the machine, I'm just simply going to fold these two down and out the way there. You can either tuck them forwards or backwards, but they've really got to go, you know, just out of the way. So I'm just going to just pop a little bit of pressure on that. And we want to get this as close to the middle as we can. Now, I'm going to tell you for sure now that if I just pop this plate on, that won't cut very easily. In order to get that through, I'm really going to have to shim it. That's the only way. Now, I've got, to be honest, I've tried different sizes. I found a little bit of 160 or even the 250 GSM card that's quite tough to pop over and shim it to push it down on the plate. Because what really, that's only, it's nothing to do with the die, it's to do with the machine. Now, you might not have to shim if you've got an electronic cutter, but this really does not cut in the middle section at all. I can't get this any closer to the edge. The next one here will be absolutely fine. This one will need a bit of help to take it through the machine. So I'm having to shim that, and I'll run that through. Like so, and back again. Now that isn't putting any strain on the machine. I've got to say, I'm not having to suddenly hit this huge big chunk of card and it's just, you know, having problems. That's not too bad. Now, before I remove anything, I'm just going to have a look and see. And I don't think it's quite cut there. So back into the machine again, put the card back on, and again give it another cut. But before I do that, I've had one of those happy moments. All these bits are coming out, so I'll just get rid of all of this, make sure it's nice and clean, and then just feed it back through. I'm just going to show you here another quick thing. If your die, my tape isn't particularly strong, if it drops out, don't worry, just the die will just literally, like a jigsaw puzzle, just drop right back in there like so. And just feel it just click into position. And I just want to run that through, pop my card there. That's 160, so I might just take another strip. I'm just going to tear something off and put another layer just on the top bit there. This is a little bit of extra work, but you just want to make sure that it works with the shimming. So it's cut underneath, no problem at all, because it's closer to the edge of where my machine cuts. A little bit of extra card on there, probably be absolutely fine. Again, I'll just pull it off. Look, there we go, job done. So a little bit of shimming. I perhaps could have put, I thought it was 250, I just double checked. That was a, let's get that out of the way, that was a 260 GSM card. So, a lovely cut, lovely pattern. Again, tap to get rid of all the bits. Pesky one still in there. Just stabbed myself. I thought that was the bit I needed to use. No, there's a one on there. There we go. Pop that out there. And again, just line this up. Right, so with the die now, what I want to do is just double cut that. So I'm just popping it over in position and just lining up these dots with the cut that I've already made, just making it equidistant, and then pop some tape on just to hold this in position like so. Perhaps one either side, a little bit of tape there just to hold it like so, and then just run this back through the machine and we'll cut that like so. So make sure your tray's clean. Now this time I'll just pop it through this away because it's closer to the edge and it's less trauma. I only have to go over one of these because it will squash it a bit. They'll still look lovely, by the way, so don't worry. line it up as close to the edge. I don't really need to shim this because it's just as, you know, a normal cut now. So that can just go through the machine. Like so. That said, it's always worth checking if it's taped down just to make sure. You can see that's all cut, all the bits are coming out. So pop that to one side, and we can see now that's done its cut. Again, just take those little bits out. Like so. And there we go. Now that's pretty good. You can't really see the join. Sometimes I end up with a little white line I just snip out with my scalpel blade. But there we go, that gives you that part. And now what we will do when we make the card up is put some coloured Miri board behind this. Like so. I'll just cut this panel out to size. And so when this comes over, let's just quickly show you like that, we see the Miri board that's caught in it behind it there. And I'd again go on and do that for all the other sides as well. Right, these two panels are now ready for gluing, but just before I do that I must check that these can fold over without catching, and they are catching slightly there. So the next thing to do is simply cut a slither off from under here, a millimetre or two at most, just to make sure. Let's cut that little bit there, but as I fold this, that folds over neatly, and it does now. And I'll go on and just check the other one as well. Okay, so now what I'm going to do is glue these two together. Okay, now with some wet glue, just pop that onto the tab. So put your two pieces down together like so. Then I would use my cutting mat here with a grid line just as a guide, and we need to offer this one up to it, and it'll just touch on the side there. And again, using my baseline cutting mat there as a guide, I can just pop that over, make sure that's in position, and just pop the wet glue down like so. But the nice thing with the wet glue is you've got a little bit of wiggle room. If that's not right, you can just come back, line it up again before you press it down. So in this instance, I'm just going to visually do it. So line up with my base there and here, and there should be a little gap between the two like so. Happy with that? Press it down and we're good. So we just let that dry for a little bit, and now at this point we can glue these panels here. So these three now, or sorry, rather, let's just have a look and see what we're going to do here. We want to put that one on last, so we can actually glue these. So that one comes down, that one comes down, and that one comes down. That's a bit of glue on there. Just leave that to rest, and then we're going to glue this together as well. So at this point, with those panels now down, what we're going to do is glue this edge here. Again, I would suggest a little bit of waste card in there just to protect it, and pop your glue. Wet glue again will just keep everything moving for you when you pop it together. So the easiest way I find here is to now pop this over like so in half, and then this one's just going to come over and sit on top of the glue like so, and that kind of finds its own natural way there. And again, a little bit of pressure and just let that set, and it with a pressure just helps to set it before you manhandle it too much, because the next thing to do when that's dry is get this part folded inside the box. And so at this stage, what I'll do is just pop it over like so, and then put a little bit of glue on the inside here to hold it along the edges. And this now just, I'll show you on the camera overhead, and here we're just going to feed this through like so. This final panel just gets fed through, and a little bit of pressure on there. Then I just hold the whole thing down, and you can see now we've got our lovely box. like so. Then these now come over and sit. If I just put a tighter crease onto those, they'll sit down a little bit lower. And then that's ready for the next stage. And the next stage on this is just popping in the mechanisms for the back here. So that's what I'm going to do next, and I'm just going to show you with the template how we draw those up. Right, for the mechanism, what we're going to do is, again, ignore, and you probably can't see this, but it just says popping mechanism here, which is this part in here. I'm going to ignore that for the moment. You really don't need that on the box. That's an optional extra, and to be honest, at this stage, I would just leave it out. You don't need it. It's for a future project, so I'm trying to future-proofing what's happening here. And I had an idea of something we could do with the box, and I thought, well, I'll add it onto the template. But in reality, I find that the box opens and closes beautifully anyway. So to uncomplicate things, ignore that. Now, what we're looking for is the word that's tab here with an arrow. And what we're going to do is draw that line in there, then our dotted fold line here, like so, and then come down from that tab line all the way down past the mechanism there through here. These are our other fold lines, and then just going to draw around the template here like so. And what I'm left with is basically this shape here, and this is the width of my box, and this creates the tabs, and I'm just going to freehand that. I find 2 tabs work really well for me, so I'm just going to pop 2 in there like so, and I'm just roughly drawing this out here, and just put a line in there, tab there, and so I'm working upside down here. I'm losing my way. Okay, so it's not wildly important how you do it. You can I'll just cut this out and all will become clear. I'll do 1 tab. Now you can put in as many as you like, but I just found that 2 seem to work really well. So all I'm going to do now is just work my way round here and then cut this out like so. There we go. And just freehand that one there. And I'll just pop a make-believe one in there as it were. Okay, clear out the waste. So the next thing to do now is just work on the 2 score lines here. And again, I'm using the back of my blade. You could be using a scoring tool, and just pop those in there like so, and then just fold that like that. Okay, so I'm just going to, by eye, estimate a tab on there. Okay, and then with my ruler just come down, and it really, it doesn't matter, I think about 15 millimeters or so down, a little tab. This is what we're going to pop the panels onto, so 15-20 mil, it's up to you. You can experiment with it and see what works for you. I think the more you're putting on that tab, probably the deeper this should be, and perhaps 20 mil or even 30 might be better. So I'm just going to make a line across there, and I can carry on. I could make thin ones or thick ones, as it were. And again, I'll just chop another one off here while I've got this, like so. And then simply, and again, you could be using scissors. I'm just using the craft knife. I'm going to just chop from the corners. Let's bring that into shot for you, just to make my little corners, just to neaten it up with these little tab lines here. So I'm going to end up with 2 of these. And again, pop that on there and that on there. Okay, so make sure that they're folded along the score lines, and we come back to our box now. Okay, decide where you want the front of the box. If you want to just hold it up and see if one looks a little bit neater than the other, use that then as the front of the box. And what we're going to do is just offer these tabs in here, and we're going to glue them and just pop them into the box like so. I just do a quick test, make sure that they look the right size, which I'm happy with that. They're not too strained or stressed. And then pop a little bit of wet glue again. And that's quite important on this, that you use wet glue on those. because it will need to allow for a little bit of movement. So if for imaginary sake, that's the front of my box there, this will come in, and again, it's all personal taste, but at this point I'm going on roughly the rule of thirds. So I'm going to have the back panel and then one across here and one here. So I'm just going to stick that in like so, and on that one I'm just going to again visualize it, just pull it up, try and keep them equidistant. See, with the wet glue you've got a bit of wiggle room on that, and now just slowly squeeze it together, and that will find its own way. If you carefully squeeze that, that's going to work perfectly within the box. Squeeze it back like so, and you can see now that's actually found where it wants to be, like that. So I'll pop in the next one here, and again just fold that over and pop some wet glue on there, and offer this back into the box and just place it in initially just by having a look and trying to keep these upright as well. It's kind of hard to show you on the camera. Just have a look, looking in there, just trying to keep those vertical, and then again just gently squeeze that. You can see on the overhead camera now that will push it. That's the nice thing with the wet glue, it will make sure it's in the right position. Hold that down and just let that glue again. And there we go, and as it opens up we've got our supports here. And again, it's really a case of personal taste, how far you want them spaced, or what you want to do. You could just, you know, do it as quarters, 1, 2, so you've got the front part, 1, 2, or thirds. Thirds works quite well, so 1, 2, 3, and spacing it with that on the back. You don't have to overdo it. It's overthink it. It's just creating that lovely backdrop. And if I come back to my original one here, I'll just show you, having a look inside here, again you can see I've got a little bit, I've just done it by eye roughly, but it looks beautiful when it's all done. That's the thing. So no right or wrong on that. Anyway, there we go, that's our tabs in there. So this is going to be the front of the box, it's that one there. So the next thing to do is just build the arches that go inside it, and for that I just use the template again and pop it down. I'm going to use just one edge here, it's one less bit of cutting for me, and up at the top there with my pencil just mark out my lines there. In fact, I've got that one on, let's do 2 like so, and then cut these out. You need to make up 3 of these, and as I said, for the depth I've just worked out, and this is just a rough rule of thumb, I do one at 80, so I'm just going to drop down at 80 millimeters for the top one. The second one I do at 120, and the last one, and I'll need another piece of card, I'm going to make at 160 millimeters. Now that's just me playing around with it. Again, you can do it however you want. If you want a shorter card or the levels to be even, that's up to you. All I'm doing with that is building up a basic level like so, that it gets taller towards the back. That's just my rationale with those measurements. I share those with you, but it really is up to you. So all I'm going to do now is just mark these up like so, just draw a line across there as a construction line, cut it out, and I'm going to use the same technique to cut these out as I've done with everything else. Just pop the die on there, on here, and just cut out the basic shape and then glue those onto my box. So I'm going to go ahead now and produce these 3 panels, and then we'll come back and I'll show you how we just, well, glue it back into the box, and then we're done and it's ready for embellishing. I've cut my 3 panels here, so what I'm going to do is just sort of glue these and pop them on to the front, as it were, of my sections there. We can see where the tabs are in the box, so a little bit of glue on the back like so, and then just hold that, offer that in, and just squeeze that back onto the tab there. You could cover all of the tab if you want, so that they can't see it, but really what I find I tend to do is just decorate in there anyway. And when you look at the card, about 20mm or so, 30mm, you can't really see what's in there. So again, do that one, and we have a decorative face, so you want the decorative face pointing forward. So glue onto the back of the card. Let me just show you here. Bit of glue to pop on the base of the panel there. Again, I'm favouring wet glue. Bring it back onto the box, line it up with the base there, and give a squeeze. We can see now how that's building up. So that's quite nice, and if you lay it flat, I find you get that almost halfway to there. Now, the back panel, I'm going to use an upright, which leads to the question is you don't actually need this one here, but let me just glue the back of this one and offer that up to the back of the box. Now, you've got no real guideline here, so I at this stage just tend to lie it down and just visually go if it's there to there, there to there, and have it sort of equidistance like so. Now we want to get this into an A5 envelope, sorry, an A4 envelope. So at this point you could check that you're not going to go over 210mm, so I'm just on the edge there with an envelope, but I have to be careful I don't overbuild it. So I could pop that one down a little bit if I wanted to. So it's not a bad thing to keep the, I would keep this to about that. I can just pop that off now. We put a little bit more glue on it and just pop it a little bit lower, so it still looks nice, but it's, if I lay that down roughly around 200 mark, which I reckon, and that's there or thereabouts, a little bit over, but that's fine. Then give it a squeeze, and we'll see now as everything opens and closes like so, and it should work both ways like that. Sometimes you find it works better one way than the other. Now you might find that you have to just trim a little bit down off the edge of some of these so they don't catch in the corner, but that again, just before you glue everything up, it's worth just checking. And there we go. Now here's the final box that I've done here, and we've got the panels in place there. I haven't bothered with a popping mechanism. Really don't think it's necessary, but one thing that I think works quite well at this point, you could argue, do you need that flap on there? And I'm tempted just to, you could do, but I would have perhaps my happy birthday greetings, if I just show you, whoops, on this box here, happy birthday up there, and then on this one I'd be tempted just to write the message on that part of the panel of the box there, or you could take that off, but I think it looks quite nice. It's just another decorative element as the box fits, so that could just sort of a lacy cover with the greetings on the message. Just a serving suggestion, my idea for that. Anyway, there we go. That's how we make the popping box card. It does look lovely. A little bit of a tighter fold will keep these down a little bit more if you want them, but I quite like the way they just rise up a little bit there. But depending on how much you squeeze it, how tight you score the line, is how far these will come up afterwards. And there we go, a standard A4 envelope that will pop into there, and a first class letter post. And you can, now the beauty of this is you can embellish it however you want. Whatever you want to put on these panels is really up to you. You can take it from here. You could use coloured paper, and if I just come back to my version on this one, was just one of my mock-ups here, you'll notice that if you use a coloured paper, that the way that it folds, and this is off the one from doing the instructions, is that you get all of that showing on the inside and everything as well. So it does look very lovely, and you could even make the popping mechanisms out of it as well. Although, sorry, not the popping mechanisms, these tabs, but really once they're covered. But again, you could put that in the same material on there, and it would just all match. The thing is, it would all match and look lovely as well. Now on this one I popped the popping mechanism, and that's on the other part of the template there, and I will pop a little video on there, but you just basically, you just make the two tabs and put an elastic band on. They're on the instructions in the box as well, and they'll be downloadable for you. But really, if you're doing this box, I would leave that out. It really isn't that necessary. It just complicates the making of it. Anyway, I hope you've enjoyed this, that it's given you an inspiration to have a go with your kit and to see that it really is pretty straightforward, even if I've made it look a little bit more difficult. I hope not. Just under the pressure of filming, keeping my head out the way, sometimes I get, oh, have I cut it in the right place or scored it? But at the end of the day, I think you end up with an absolutely stunning and beautiful card. And from here, as I said, for me, it's free rein to embellish with all the dies and just make it look absolutely beautiful. Now, I know you crafters are really good, and I'm looking at this and I'm already thinking of ideas and things I could do with it. And I know that you're going to have great fun with it and produce some fantastic cards. Anyway, take care and enjoy your crafting. Bye-bye.